Hello, my friends. Once again, here I am with you to present an episode in which we will discuss an event very important in the world of Okran. It's something very well known to a lot of people since it has appeared on TV shows. Corridos have been composed and books have been written where they narrate this fact very well. But as always, here we have the details that have never been revealed. As the title suggests, you know what I'm talking about. I'm referring to the capture of Pocha in February of 2014 in the city of Mazatlan, Sinaloa. Here I'm going to tell you how it actually was. Because remember at the beginning of this podcast, I told you we were going to debunk corridos, stories, books, and more. Well, there's a book written by a former DEA agent named Hunting the Pocha. His name is Andrew Hogan. Andrew wrote his book very well structured, and most of the information is true. It just has a very tiny big flaw. He didn't say the real reason why they were able to catch El Pocha. He, in his book, says it was all thanks to intelligence and thousands of other things that are good for a book or a Hollywood movie. But unfortunately, he didn't provide the key piece needed to achieve his goal. And this is where I come in to tell you the truth, in fact. As we are going to deny this book that I am telling you, I'm going to base myself a bit on it. To tell you about some situations that were experienced during that period of operations in the year 2014. Since he tells us about what it was like on the government's side, and I'll share with you the research I did, what it was like, but from the other side, that is, from Telcar. Here is the picture of the book if you want to buy it. I'm also going to reveal something here that many of you have asked me on social media and have also mentioned here in the comments about how El Bravo resignation really happened and who was the one who resigned him. Here, I'll tell you exactly how things happened, since many have speculated whether it was the Menores or El Licenciado. Well, here you will learn the truth. So later you won't go around saying I didn't talk about what these people did, and that I only talk about the Guzmans. I already told you that I'm going to talk about whoever needs to be talked about. But let's go step by step. First of all, let's speak clearly. In the book I'm talking about, this one called Chasing the Pocha, which I also highly recommend. It's interesting. It's are in both languages. They are in Spanish and in English. But well, it mentions that the writer led the investigation and the entire operation to capture the Pocha, and he proclaims himself as the one who accomplished that action, when in reality the credit belongs to just one person, Manuel Aponte Gomez. Here's the photo of the famous El Bravo or El Negro. Well, but let's go step by step. How did it start? For the Ritter. Following the trail of the leader of the Telcar from Sinaloa, it all starts with the writer already infiltrated and collecting money in the United States, and depositing it into a bank account to then make a transfer to the members of the Telcar, and that all the money belonged to Pocha. The agents charged a minimum of 7% from each money collection. So like this, through those transactions, they gained trust and managed to infiltrate the organization, doing business with Pocha's son's father-in-law. That is Victor Manuel Felix, father-in-law of Alfredo Guzman, who was arrested in 2011 because he never realized his partners weren't Cosnar, but federal agents. Well, that's what the writer says. But the way I see it, hundreds of people knew the Pocha called Tocayo Ivan. Many were already cooperating with the U.S. government. Some were imprisoned, others were information sources. You'll remember Juancho, Pocha's cousin, the Flores twins from Chicago, Vicente Zambada, the Colombian communications expert. I'm telling you this so you realize. As this writer says, he discovered something that the government had known for many years. Things like, these are what I'm going to tell you, so you don't believe everything you're told. The writer He reports that he had all the communications intercepted from the offices used by Pocha to communicate with all his people. From his wives, his children, his compadres, his workers, his pilots, his secretaries, with everybody. He just doesn't mention one person, El Yoma. In that conference room was Admiral Fury, and that in the room there were many more officers and quite a few naval chiefs, and they were there to talk about a top-secret operation to hunt down the world's most wanted man. But there were too many people in the room, and he told all the men gathered there that the goal, meaning El Pocha, was getting real-time updates, and that the information about the operation was leaking, and it seems that the responsible was someone from an elite group of the Navy Department of Mexico City, that he was the one passing the information. Admiral Fury only admitted that yes, that there were leaks in the Navy Department, and it wasn't surprising that Pocha knew everything that was happening, but that it would try to maximize the confidentiality of the information. And he asked the agents if they had any more information on the matter at the target locations, and the agents provided them with some information, and the Admiral exploded, yelling at them for holding things back, and ordered them to establish trust immediately. The agents expressed, apologizing that it was all the intelligence they had gathered, and they knew they also had corrupt agents working in their agencies in the United States. So they asked the Admiral if he could please help them with one thing, and that thing was the CIA. And they told him that the CIA had bought members of the Navy Secretariat and that, therefore, it could be done. It was better to leave the CIA out of this. Pocha was living in Culiacan. I keep saying living, but he actually also spent some days in the mountains and in the rural communities. But mostly he moved around Culiacan. The reason is because he was afraid of living in the mountains. This is real. I'm not making it up. Nor did it just occur to me. What happened is that in the year 2010, if I remember correctly, in the mountains between Badiraguato and Durango, a military helicopter crashed, carrying special forces, and it plummeted close to where Pocha was living. From that moment on, El Pocha was scared to be in the mountains because he thought that helicopter would bombard him like they do in Colombia. On that occasion, it was an accident. Ivan had escaped. Things didn't go like that. They didn't capture Ivan because Ivan was never at that place. Instead, his secretary had the phone. A young person who was not known at all at the time. But as of today, he is one of the most important men in the organization. I am referring to Kevin Alonso, Gil Acosta, also known as the 200 or the Cabo. And they also arrested his brother Karim Elias Gil Acosta. I'll show you the photo of the most important secretary for Ivan. Told the government he was there, the Pocha is in room 401, is alone with his secretary. There will be no bodyguards, no one will rescue him. No one's going to warn him about the operation. Go in and give him the resignation. He was just short of saying that. That is to say, it is already wrapped like a gift. But the writer, make up a good story, what a nerve. But the convoy, as they were passing through the Pointers at Mazatlan, they headed to the Malecon, and Pointers notified when they arrived at the Miramar Hotel. As for the ground convoy, it arrived at the Miramar condos at the same time as the helicopter from the water arrived, and shortly after, the helicopter from the hills arrived. Thus, a very simple ground operation, but with 2 helicopters, was what truly made the capture of Pocha. Here I'm going to show you a picture of where Cerritos is, and the route the helicopters took. Here we're going to debunk another of the many falsehoods seen in the media. In April of 2014, the Brave One appeared along with 2 other resigned men on a small ranch near the Cross de Elota. The next day, about that event, Yoma sent a message to El Licenciado asking if he could visit him immediately. The Licenciado said yes. And he went to a ranch of Yoma, there in the jurisdiction of Quila. As soon as they arrived, they greet each other with a hug. And Yoma says, listen, also took it was ordered to give his wife a ride. And she said during the interrogation that she had seen her husband a bit odd the last few months.